Hello everyone, this is Prem Kumar. In this video, I'm going to talk about a latest trending topic, Pega Gen AI. First, credit to Pega Systems and their R&D team for bringing in the Gen AI into the Pega platform. This clearly shows the mindset of the market leaders. They always catch up with the latest trend, right? And this video, it's not going to be like those Alamo rentals or the guinea pig climbs. It's not going to be like that. Here, I'm just going to explain in depth about the Gen AI. I will also walk you through the Pega platform configuration. So do not skip this video and let's get started. Okay, first some basics about the Gen AI. To start with, let's talk about the differences between the traditional AI and the generative AI, which is called Gen AI. First, traditional AI. We all know that AI came into picture like decades before. The main use case of AI is like they can solve problems, they can make predictions, and they can also automate some tasks. So what we do is we train them on specific data sets, and based on those data sets and based on our configurations with some predefined rules, they can make some predictions. So that is on a high level about the traditional AI. So what makes generative AI unique is they can create new content. The content can be text, image, audio, different kinds of content they can create, and they can be trained on large data sets and creates creative content. When I say creative content, I can give you an example of human brain. Let's say you are writing some story or doing some painting. You use your imagination, right? There will be some kind of data stored into your brain. Like you can think of some real-time scenarios and you can write some stories, right? So here our brain is trained on large data set. They have those in their memory. Similarly with Gen AI, they are trained on large data sets. They are trained on some special models so that they learn from those and they can create their own content. Okay, now we know what is Gen AI. It is going to generate content. Let's also understand some more terminologies that is part of Gen AI. Okay, first, there is something called artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is like it emulates human by taking in input and then it performs. So it's like a big discipline. And machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. So what machine learning does is a system can learn by using the input data. So we can provide a set of input or instructions and then machines can predict the expected output. It can predict on its own. So this is on machine learning. There is another concept called deep learning. So deep learning is a subset of machine learning where it can learn by itself by using the data. Just like how I explained you about the brain, right? Similarly with machine learning, there are a lot of neurons that can have some layers. So it takes in the data and then it can learn by itself. Deep learning, machine learning, it's like a very vast topic. So I'm not going to go much in detail, but just understand the concept. And finally, generative AI is a subset of deep learning. And with generative AI, we are going to generate new contents. Okay, now let's talk about the relationship between the Gen AI, the Open AI and Chat GPT. OpenAI is a company. It is founded in 2015. They primarily focus on this artificial intelligence research and development work. They introduce a lot of GPTs. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers. So they introduce different versions, GPT-2, GPT-3 and now GPT-4. And all these GPTs are trained using LLM. LLM stands for Large Language Models. So it uses huge amount of data and it gets trained using those data. And on November 2022, they launched the Chat GPT, which took the internet as a storm. Everyone was talking about this Chat GPT and what it can do. And Chat GPT is basically, it is built over those models. So it can take in the prompt or the input and then it can do the response. And a lot of organizations and the startups, they started using these OpenAI services to build their own products. And Microsoft is also an investor into this OpenAI and it provides all this Chat GPT. And also there is one more thing called DALL-E, which is for image generation. and Microsoft Azure, it provides them as a cloud service. So this is all about the relationship between OpenAI, a company. It uses the Gen AI models and then it introduced the Chat GPT. Okay, now let's get into Pega Gen AI. Always if something comes into the market, then you will have some kind of product within Pega, and Pega 23 also introduced this Pega Gen AI. So what Pega actually did is they created an API abstraction layer that can connect to this Gen AI models, and this is available exclusively only in the Pega cloud, and Pega has a strict guideline that it cannot be replicated or used outside of the Pega cloud. And currently, as of October 2023, Pega do support OpenAI models. It means it can connect to OpenAI models, but there is also some documentation saying that extension to additional Gen AI providers is also possible, and we will see some of the products soon in the marketplace. And with this Gen AI and Pega 23, Pega also introduced a new connector, Connect Gen AI, that can have some basic configurations like request response that can be used for making use of this Gen AI. Okay, now we say Pega has some API abstraction layer. It can use the Gen AI, and we know what is Gen AI. Gen AI can create text, image, music, all those things. How can we use this Gen AI into a Pega application? So Pega is mostly used as a BPM tool, right? So in a business process, you need to have some use cases where you can use this Gen AI. Just think of text where you want to generate some text, and Pega used that and introduced some use cases into Pega Infinity 23. I'm just going to list some of the most common use cases, and Pega currently has around 20 plus use cases where they use Gen AI. First thing is on the case management, which everyone might have seen this. Like with a click of the button, you can create any kind of case, stages, steps. You can use some data model, generate the data model. You can also fill out those form details automatically. So this is on the case management, and on the data management and integration, we can also create data objects. Pega can recommend data objects that can be created for those applications. And in addition to creating data objects, data models, we can also load some sample data. And then about the email bot. So this is one of the interesting one where Pega can suggest some replies. It can take in the context, it can understand the email tone, the emotions, and it can suggest us some templates like the email reply templates is possible by using this Gen AI. And finally, we can also use some reporting insights where you can write your own text to generate some report. To me, I find these are all some of the interesting use cases where you can use the Pega Gen AI. And remember, this is the first version where Pega introduced Pega Gen AI, and definitely we are going to have a lot of use cases both in the Business Studio and also in different frameworks like customer service marketing frameworks can also use this Pega Gen AI. We can also contribute to this revolution. You can think of some use case. You may work in some kind of banking, finance or airline, or you may work in a different industry, but you can just think of some use case where you can put in your Gen AI into the Pega platform. Okay, enough of slides. Let's get our hands dirty by going into the Pega platform and check all those configurations, the underlying code behind how Pega implemented the Gen AI. Let's get started. Here I have just logged in into the Pega Community Edition, and you can see I am already into the Pega Infinity 23 version. I hope everyone knows how to access the Pega Community Edition. With your registered account under your My Pega, there you can go to the software and then use the Community Edition. I just started up my Community Edition, and I also created a simple application. You can just create your own application. So this is my first application. By default, Gen AI will not be enabled in your application. So first step, you have to enable using the Gen AI. To do that, just go to the Dev Studio and then go to Toggles, Configure, System, Release, Toggles, and then you can find the Enable Gen AI. You see, this is the toggle Enable Gen AI. So all I have to do is just enable it. So I go here, and then toggle I already explained in one of the video. You can just go through the video if you want to understand about toggles. But on a high level, you can enable this for everyone who is using this Pega application, or only for your access group, or you can just enable it only for you. I'm just going to enable for everyone, although I'm just going to use my own community edition. Just do a submit. Now this is on, right? You see the status is on. This is the only configuration which I'm going to do now. I didn't configure anything, how I'm going to connect to the OpenAI. I didn't do any kind of configuration. Now go to the App Studio. Let's create a case. Let's see how this Gen AI is getting used. Go to case type, add a case. You see here, it already suggested us user registration, order placement, payment processing, issue resolution. Okay, now I'm going to use AI to suggest a life cycle and data model. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say, let me give wine preparation. Okay, so I'm just going to create a case that is going to involve the stages and steps for this wine preparation. And do a next. Let's see. Now that Gen AI is going to generate me the stages and steps. You see here, it says first stage, select your grapes. And inside this stage, I have 3 steps. And next, crush and press. Finally, fermentation. So this is like a preparation for wine. So you have those stages and steps defined, right? And then you can also proceed, and let's check the next step. So here you see Pega created us a data model. Wine name, wine type, region, vintage. So these are the things which Gen AI created for us, right? All this content, the text content, Gen AI creates and Pega maps it into the Pega property. Alcohol content, bottle size, everything is here. Now if I click submit, I'm going to create a brand new case type. Everything is created using AI. So this is the magic of AI. Now we want to understand how it is implemented in Pega. So you see here, now a case lifecycle is entirely generated. Okay, to debug anything like how Pega implemented certain features, all you can do is just use your tracer. That's all you can do. Go to settings, start your tracer. Now I'm just going to repeat the same thing. I'm going to create a new case type and create a new case type. By this time, Gen AI should predict us, right? It already gave some suggestions. Let's see how we got these input, from where we got this input. So like this tracer completes. Okay, it ends here. I'm going to pause the tracer. I'm going to scroll down and try to check the things that are under the GPT. I see it all started with D_PZ get AI case types. So this is the data page that is responsible to get all those AI case types, right? If you scroll little up, you also see it makes some connector configuration. Just scroll up. You see here a GPT request is made. Let's check the details. So in the GPT request, there is a prompt. So in a chat GPT context, prompt refers to the input. So there is a text box where you can provide some input, right? So this is the same input. You can see here, we are actually framing a question. Can you provide me count? I think the count will be 4. 4 short and descriptive labels to use for the workflow objects. The label should be of the format, we say case type, and then we also say avoid special characters. So we give all the input as a request to the GPT. So this is the GPT request which we make, and then we also use some connect REST. So we are making API call to a GPT model to get the data. So we prompt them with the message and we try to get the response back. You see here GPT request. So this is where you will find all those details, the structure of details. You also see we give them a sample, like we expect the chat GPT to generate things into a JSON format. Why JSON format? Because we are using REST service, so we expect the response to be into the JSON format. So we provide everything. The final prompt, if you look, just scroll and look into the structure, you see, give me in this format, py case name, py label, and then give it as JSON. So when we ask a GPT to provide this, definitely it is going to respond us with the right structure. Let's check the response. You see here connect REST is made, and then let's go to the response and check. So here we should have a response. response code is 200, and then request body post. I just want to look into the response body post. So this is the response which we used. And you see here, the model we use is GPT 3.5. 3.5 stands for 3.5 Turbo. So this is the model which we used, or which is configured out of the box into the Pega Community Edition. Let's check the details. You see here the content, the case name, label is user registration, another label is order placement, another label is payment processing, and the final label is issue resolution. And you see tokens here, right? Tokens refers to words, that is in the GPT terms. So we got all these 4 recommendations. The exact 4 recommendations is mapped into the Pega screens. So that's what you see here: user registration, order placement, payment processing, and issue resolution. Let me quickly show you one more interesting thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try the same into the Chat GPT. Let me go to the request and copy the entire request. I hope you got what I'm trying to do. I'm going to mimic the same by directly going into the Chat GPT. And then I'm going to send the message. So this is the entire structure which we are inputting via an API call. Let's check. And it gives me the case names as service request, incident report, approval request, change request. So this is based on a model. I don't think here I'm using the same model, 3.5 Turbo model. If I try to do the same model, maybe I get the same response what we saw as a REST response. So what I want to make here is, Pega has an API abstraction layer. It is going to make API call to get the data. So it forms its own request. It says like, get the response into this structure, make a request, gets it back, parse it, and then map it into the screens. That's how Pega uses the Gen AI. Okay, now you may think, where does this configuration stays? Because definitely if you are making an API call, you are hitting a server, right? So you need to have the configurations, the endpoint configurations, the authentication configurations, like which model you are going to use. If you are using OpenAI, definitely you have to specify the model, right? Let me show you where you can find those details. First thing is, go to settings, go to configurations. You see there are 2 configurations. One on the default Gen AI provider. By default, Pega is using Pega Azure Chat. Okay, as I told already, Microsoft, they provide the OpenAI services as cloud offerings into the Microsoft Azure, and by default, Pega's Community Edition is connecting to the Microsoft Azure. And the model GPT-35 Turbo. And with Microsoft Azure, if you want to know the pricing, you can very well go to this page where OpenAI service pricing, you can just search for it, and there you will find something like, if you are using the model 3.5 Turbo, then with every prompt per token, you may have to spend some money. So with Pega Community Edition, Pega is spending some money out of it, because the models are not with Pega, it is with some OpenAI. Now if you think that, can we create our own model? It's not that easy. So what I read is, you may need to spend billions if you want to generate some Gen AI models, because it involves huge amount of data, a lot of resources will be spent. So it's not that easy that you can just create your own model, the Gen AI model. So we have to use some already defined models which are available as service. So we are using GPT 3.5, and you see this is cost less. If you see cost less, it means 3.5 is trained on maybe a small data set comparing to the GPT-4, which is costlier. Definitely it must have trained in a huge data set. So the response may be very prompt, or there will be more trust in the response. Always think that the Gen AI, whatever response we get, it cannot be true always. It is based on the data which it gets trained. Okay, now coming back to Pega, let's also understand some of the out-of-the-box rules. You see, first, all these Gen AI specific rules, right? It is available into Pega NLP rule set, that is part of Pega platform. So that is why you get everything out of the box, the default configurations, that is into the Pega cloud or the Pega community. So everything comes under this rule set, Pega NLP. Now you may get a question, can we use a different provider, a different Gen AI provider? Because in the market, there are a lot of Gen AI providers available. So what Pega did is, Pega also gives you a built-on applications. If you go to the Dev Studio, so this is the application which I'm using, which is built over the My Community Edition. Now what I can do is I can include the generative AI providers application. So this application has some kind of extensions or list all the AI providers, not only the default providers, but also it extends to other providers. Let me show you what I meant here. So do a save. Let's open this application quickly. You see currently it's supposed to one Azure Open AI, which we already saw, it comes as the default, and second is the Open AI. So Open AI is like directly we can connect to Open AI, or we can also use the cloud service, the Azure AI cloud service. Till now we explored about the Azure AI cloud service, right? So if you open here, you will find some reusable classes. So if you go here, you see Data Gen AI provider, and then you say Azure Chat. So similarly, if you go to Open AI, then definitely you will find some class that is related to Open AI Chat, right? So this is how Pega reuse the structure. So you have a generic layer, Data Gen AI provider, that is part of Pega NLP, and then when you include these applications, you can also connect to different Gen AI providers. But with Pega community, by default, even if you don't include this application, you can connect to Azure Chat. But if you want to specifically use your own credentials and connect to your own Open AI, you can very well use this as the build-on applications and connect to your own Open AI. That is what I'm going to show now. So to do that, first step, include this. Once you include, you will get some additional configurations. Now you go to App Studio and go to the configurations. Okay, now to connect to OpenAI, what you have to do is, the first step, you have to change the default Gen AI provider. Currently it is pointed to Pega Azure Chat. Just change this to OpenAI Chat. Remove the Pega Azure and then specify the OpenAI. So this is the first step. The next step is, we can still use the GPT-35 Turbo. The same thing we can use. And with OpenAI API key, you have to use your own API key. Let's get the API key. Just go to OpenAI, try to log in, and then go to API. I already logged in with my credentials. Go to API, and then you can go to the View APIs. As I already told, OpenAI provides Chat GPT, text-based, DALL-E, which is image-based. Now I'm going for the Open API keys. I already created an API key for me. I can always create a new secret key. And then you have the API key. Just copy the API key and then input here. Okay. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to connect to OpenAI instead of out of the box Azure Chat. You can also easily verify that. If you again go to the OpenAI, go to the billing, there you should find your credit. Currently I do have some credit. If you don't have your credit, definitely you cannot use that. You will get some error message. So what you can do is, you can create your own account using a different email. You just can create your own OpenAI account. By default you will have some credit. So if you cross that credit, you have to pay extra. Okay, so now I have 4.99, and then I can also check my usage. You see, so yesterday there is one hit happened because I did some test. Now today definitely there will be one hit. Let's test it out. The configurations are done. I'm going back to the case type. I'll say create. Let's see if we still have some suggestions. We have the suggestions. Now you see here the same kind of suggestions, right? User registration, order placement, payment processing, issue resolution, because it uses the same model. Let me show you how you can use a different model. If you go to the OpenAI page, there you will find different models, right? So currently we are using 3.5 Turbo. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use a different model here, the instruct model. Now go to configurations and then change here to the right model. Now let's create a new case type. You see here there is something called password reset. You know why this as a case type it came? Because it is a first app. So password reset is like a suggested word to the first applications, right? Whenever you create application, you have to do some password reset or something. So that is why the model, the new model, it's suggested as a different AI suggestion. So using the model is a key criteria here. If you have a model that is well trained for your organizations, or if you find such model, you can use those model, but maybe it can come with some extra cost. Okay, before closing this video, let's also explore the new rule. So we have something called connect Gen AI. Just click and open the rule. You see there are only two out of the box rules, the connect Gen AI rules, but there are a lot of rules. Let me show you. These two are out of the box rules. Let's just understand the configuration. I have a good feeling that this rule is going to change a lot in the coming versions. Currently it holds a very simple structure. It holds a request, so you can define it as text summarization, Q&A, image generation or custom. Then you can use a prompt, and prompt is a field value. Let me show you, because Pega also uses some field value. And then the response, you can say the response as a single structure, a list structure or some unstructured data. Okay, I'm not going to go in detail into this connect Gen AI rule for now, but I'll just explain the dependent rules that are part of Gen AI. As I told already, there is a field value rule, right? Let me open the field value rule, and the field name is Pega Gen AI prompt. So this is how you can explore on your own even. I don't want to show you everything. You can already do it on yourself. But I'll just mention, like with PY generative AI prompt, we have a lot of field value rules. And can you remember this PZ get case type names? And then you see, this is the exact one which we saw, right? The same prompt which we saw in the response. Can you provide me 4 short and descriptive labels? Can you provide me 4 short and descriptive labels, right? So this is how Pega uses this field value rule. And I already told you there is a data page involved. D_PZ get AI case types. So this is the data page, right? So if I open this data page, it has all the rules. You will get some enough idea. So you see, this calls an activity PZ, and then what it does, it calls another activity PX connect to Gen AI. So open this activity, and it uses the generative AI definition. So it opens the Gen AI rule, the connect Gen AI rule using this data page. It gets all the details. You see the rule name is PZ get case type suggestions, right? So let's open this. So you see there is a connect Gen AI rule. So this is the Gen AI rule which is responsible. This is a PZ rule, and you see the use case QA, and it uses the prompt. This is the prompt which we get, right? So entire thing is here, and it gets the structured list into PY case names, PY label. Now if you want to look at all the places, just copy this rule, search for it, do an all content search. There you will find at which places it is referred. Get all case types. This is what we looked into. Data object suggestions, AI field suggestions, personas. See, everything you get. So at the end, this is the reusable rule, the connect to Gen AI, which opens the Gen AI rule. And then you also see it calls another activity, right? Infra level API. So this is where the REST service call is getting made. Let me end this lecture by explaining you even the REST service call. So if I open this activity, and then you have all this connect REST. See, if you want to do some post, you have this. Now I'm going to do copy here and open this, because by default this is under the reusable class data Gen AI provider, but this connect REST is customized into different classes. Just open here, you will see for Azure configuration we have a connect REST, for OpenAI we have a connect REST. Let's open the Azure first. So you see there is an application setting that holds the entire URL to connect to the Azure Open. So this is for the Azure OpenAI base URL. So it uses these configurations. And what about the authentication? So it also uses some authentication profile which already Pega configured. But for OpenAI we gave our own API key, right? But for the Azure we already have the client ID, client secret, everything comes out of the box into the Pega community or the Pega cloud version. Now let me open the same connect REST rule for the OpenAI. So OpenAI chat, you'll find the URL, you see, api.openai.com. So this is how the URL configurations are made, and it doesn't use any authentication profile because we are using our API key, and Pega's abstraction layer will take care of making the call, doing the parse. It takes care of the rest. I think this can serve as a good starting point for you to explore. If you want to do some customization, you can create your own connect Gen AI rule. Use some classes, use some out of the box stuffs, understand everything how it is built. Only then you can easily customize it. I hope this opens a door for new features. Definitely at some business, they may use this Gen AI for sure. I'm really expecting to see how this Pega Gen AI progress in the coming months. If you understand something new with the Gen AI, please share it with your friends also. Let everyone get benefit. Let us all go together in the same direction where Pega is heading to. See you all in the next video.